It was a calm Friday night in the bustling city of Chicago. The city lights flickered outside my apartment window, casting a soft glow inside the room. I, Emma Williams, had just turned 20 and was living alone for the first time. My parents had gone out of town for the weekend, and I had the whole place to myself. I had no plans for the evening. It was just me and the peaceful silence of my apartment, occasionally interrupted by the sounds of distant cars. Little did I know, this night would turn into something I never expected. Gabriel Gabby Rodriguez, a family friend, had been visiting occasionally. He was about my age, and we'd known each other for years. That night, he'd stopped by to check in on me since my parents weren't around. We sat in the living room, talking about random things, work, friends, and life in general. The conversation had shifted to more personal matters, and before I knew it, the clock hit 2 a.m. "You should get some sleep," Gabby said with a soft chuckle as he leaned back on the couch, his eyes scanning the room. But I didn't want the night to end. I wasn't particularly tired, and the presence of someone familiar was comforting. "I'm not that sleepy yet. Stay a little longer," I said, almost pleading, though my voice felt uncertain. Gabby hesitated, then smiled. "All right, if you insist." I felt a strange sensation when he stood up and walked toward my room. I wasn't sure what to make of it, but the warmth of his smile and the ease in his presence made it feel comfortable. Before I knew it, Gabby was lying down beside me in my bed. It wasn't a big deal. We had always been close friends, and this was nothing unusual. We talked about silly things at first, laughing about our childhood memories, but slowly, the mood shifted. The light-hearted jokes turned into deeper, more intimate conversations. His hand brushed against mine, and the touch, though innocent at first, lingered. I felt a heat rush to my face, unsure of what to do or say. As we talked, I could feel myself growing more and more comfortable with the idea of him being so close. The night passed in a blur, with occasional moments of silence as we both rested, the warmth of the bed enveloping us. By the time morning arrived, the first rays of sunlight seeped through the window. I woke up slowly, still lying beside him. Gabby was sound asleep, his face relaxed and peaceful. I turned to face him, a sense of something unfamiliar but comforting filling the space between us. "Gabby?" I whispered softly, nudging him gently. He didn't stir. I let out a breath, my heart beating faster than usual. Was I overthinking everything? He had just stayed the night because we were friends, right? But why did it feel different? The room was still, and for a moment, everything was perfect. I realized that I might not have known what this night would bring, but something had shifted. Maybe it was just the intimacy of being close to someone, or maybe there was something more between us that I hadn't noticed before. As I got up and moved toward the door, I turned to look back at him one last time. Gabby remained asleep, undisturbed, but the feeling in the room was undeniable. Would things ever be the same after this night? The morning sun filtered softly through the curtains, but it didn't ease the confusion twisting in my stomach. I was awake before Gabby, lying on my side and staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. The events of last night played in my mind like a movie, but the emotions I felt were too strong, too overwhelming to be captured in simple thoughts. I glanced over at Gabby, still asleep beside me. His body was turned away from me, his chest rising and falling slowly with every breath. The silence in the room was deafening. For the first time in years, I felt a strange sense of vulnerability. He had always been like a brother to me, a family friend, someone I could count on. But now, with him beside me, everything felt different. I reached over, gently shaking his shoulder. "Gabby," I whispered, barely able to speak over the nerves twisting in my throat. He stirred, his eyes fluttering open slowly. At first, he didn't seem to fully register where he was. Then, as his gaze met mine, the familiar warmth in his eyes made me question everything. He smiled, but it wasn't just the casual smile I was used to. There was something deeper in it, something that made my heart beat a little faster. "Morning," he murmured, his voice hoarse with sleep. Did I fall asleep here? I must have been out of it. I nodded, not trusting my voice. His presence felt so intense now. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound casual. "It's okay." He sat up and stretched, a low groan escaping his lips. I couldn't help but notice how close we were, how his body was so much more present than I remembered. The distance between us, which had always been so clear, now seemed to blur. There was an awkward silence, and I found myself unable to speak. What was I supposed to say? Thanks for staying over? It wasn't just about staying over anymore. The events of the night, the closeness, the words we had shared, everything was tangled in my mind. Gabby glanced at me, his eyes searching mine as though he were looking for something. "We need to talk," he said, his voice suddenly serious. I felt a chill run through me. Talk? About what? Yeah, I know, I replied, my voice shaky. I think we need to talk too. I had no idea what was coming, but the air between us had changed. It wasn't just a casual conversation we were about to have. Something deeper was at play. As Gabby stood to leave, I followed him toward the door, my heart pounding in my chest. He stopped just before leaving, turning to face me one last time. "Emma," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't think things are as simple as they used to be. We're both feeling something, aren't we?" I froze. My heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just a conversation anymore. This was a turning point. But before I could respond, he walked out the door, leaving me standing there, my thoughts racing. What had just happened? Why did it feel like my whole world had shifted in one night? I stood there for a moment, the silence of the room engulfing me. My mind was reeling, trying to catch up with the whirlwind of emotions and questions swirling in my head. I had no answers. But there was one thing I was certain of: this was far from over. And whatever happened next, I had a feeling it would change everything. As the door clicked shut behind him, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Something I hadn't yet figured out. And that, in itself, was the most unsettling part of all.